Psalm 111, precisely verse number 4, from where we had our responsorial psalm, reminds us of one fact. The good man, the good woman is a light in the darkness for the upright. We live in a society that has been taken over by a lot of complications. We live in a world that is surrounded by darkness. We live in a society that is being disorganized by the reality of what stands for right and just. And like I will always say, we've come to a point where in our world of today, good has been preferred for bad, and bad is now considered as good. We live in a society where standing for right and just and for the truth, then you are nobody. And because of all these facts, my dear sisters and brothers, a lot of things have been happening. And because nobody stands and has the moral probity and courage to speak, it has got to a point that the good people have ended up becoming so quiet. And that is why evil is thriving. Be that as it may, from the reality of this point is a centralization and a reminder of the fact that God is letting us understand that each of us, there is something about us. And like I will always advise and encourage us, nobody is a nobody. In all of us, there is somebody in us. And we must stand our grounds to take advantage of the presence of God in our lives and what God has created us for. And now let us put it in a more simpler terms with regard to what has been manifested, the two key words of our message of today: light and salt. And now you know that in life, these two areas are so important that we cannot do without. We need salt. And you know that salt is one of those spices that is so natural that whether we do anything in life, as far as our cooking is concerned, we need it. And if you go into the economic use of salt and other areas of agricultural use of application of salt, you discover some of the basic importance as a preservative, as something that adds taste, it adds flavors, and we can go on and on. It means that our lives as Christians, we are to add flavor to our world that is in darkness. It means that we as Christians, we are to become the salt of the earth. When Jesus said we have to become the salt of the earth, it means that we need to add taste to a tasteless world. We need to become the salt in our places of work. When things are going down and we are losing taste of the situation, in the family, at home, in every aspect of our being, we have to become the salt. We don't become tasteless because every other person is getting tasteless. We don't become tasteless because those who are supposed to direct us are not in any way motivating us. But we have to become tasteful in a tasteless society. And that is exactly one of the challenges that has been given to us as sons and daughters of the resurrection. In all of us, there is this element of saltness that God has given to us. The question we should ask ourselves: have I lost my own taste? Have I lost my own salt? And it says we have to become light. And now we know that when there is light, darkness cannot stay. The presence of light in us is that, yes, our world is surrounded by darkness. We have to become that light. And how do we make this light manifest? We need to make this light manifest in our actions, in our attitude, the way we relate, in our way of living, and the way we operate in our various society. Today, like I rightly said, is a special day. The first Sunday in the month of February. As light and as salt, have I started with God? As light and as salt, what is my place value? What is my connection with God? It is just all about attending church? Is it all about praying at home? Is it all about preaching the Bible? There is more we need to do, and that is the commitment and our encounter with the reality of the Most High God. Because it's always important, my dear friends in Christ, for us not to lose our saltness, for us not to lose our light. We need to check those around us. We need to look at our surroundings. We need to look at our environment. We need to look at the things that is around us. What is quenching our light? What is making us to be tasteless? These are the projects we need to work on now. It means that, yes, I may be making effort as light. I may be making effort as salt. But certain things seem to be disconnecting me from the saltness and the presence of the light of God's grace in my life. And that is the essential aspect of our connectedness to God. And I want to bring this to our notice, my dear sisters and brothers. There is something you will notice when the enemy notices that you are the light. What the enemy will do is to find a way to quench that light. And that is why we have the wind. When the wind blows and you are holding a candle, what do? You try to protect the candle because you don't want this wind to blow it off. When you are a light, don't think it's going to be easy. In fact, the more light you are, the more attacks you are going to get. The more light you are, the more problematic it shall become. Don't get discouraged when you begin to face attacks and face challenges. It is a sign that you are heading somewhere. It is important because when you stand for the truth and when you do what is right and just, humanity will come against you. People will fight you. Don't be too comfortable when people are clapping for you. It means there is nothing about you. But it's important for you to understand when the light in you begins to shine, that light is going to dispel darkness. And I think there is something I want us, those of us who have to follow this light, the first thing you have to do is to disconnect completely from the distractions around you. The things you listen to, the things you watch, the things you hear, and the things people say. Because when you hear these things and you begin to get distracted, you may limit the light, and that is why the light goes dim. Because the enemy's target is to quench your light. And as salt, we have to understand the purpose of salt is to add taste and to add value. But in the course of this salt, be very, very careful, even while you are cooking. You know why I'm saying that? Because salt is good. But when you add too much salt to the soup, what happens? It becomes too salty. And that brings us to the page where a lot of us, in the course of projecting our Christianity, we have gone extra to the point where we condemn every other person and think that only us are the good people. And that is the essence of management of time. It is important that we have to realize that the saltness and the light around us, and that is why the conclusion of the gospel is said, let your light shine so that all men and women will see the goodness of God in us. It means that there is something that will make our light to shine, and that is the way we conceive things. And now, one of the things that will also help us in this lightness and saltness is that we need to work on our mindset. We need to work on our mentality. What have we been holding on to? A lot of us have been holding to certain traditions, and we feel that change is not necessary. A lot of us have been holding to certain situations that we feel nobody can tell us what we have to do, and we are not disposed and ready to learn the things that will help us to get better. I speak this because many a times in our lives, a lot of us get accustomed to certain things that we feel that those things are not needed to be changed, or we can't move forward. I want to be practical about certain situations that happens around us certain times. What do you notice? The essential aspect of our being in church and in God is to worship God, is to glorify God. The simple catechism reminds us. It said, who made us? I said, God made me. And I would follow in the next question. I said, why did God make me? And what's the answer? God made me to what? To know him. To do what again? To love him. And to do what again? To serve him. In this world and in the next. So God did not make me so that I will go to church because of somebody, because of the priest, or because of somebody. God made me so that I can worship him. So the purpose here is about worship, your relationship with God. And this relationship with God is not in any way to be conditional by human sentiments or by anybody. So it means whether the priest is there or the priest is not there, my linkage and my connection with God should be sincere. I am not coming to church because of the priest. And I've warned us about this fact. If you are coming to church because of the priest or because of somebody, better stay home. Change your style. If you are living your life to please people, better relocate your mindset, because that is not the aspect of Christianity. That is not Christianity. That is witchcraft. It is important for we to understand, because sometimes we begin to worship people. We begin to think about friends. We begin to think about people. And this makes us to get distracted from the reality that our purpose on planet Earth is to worship God and not to worship people. What happens when those people are no more? What happens if they die? And that is why you look at the power and the goodness of the Catholic Church. The Catholic Church is not built on the foundation of the priest, the pope, the bishop, or anybody. The church is established on the foundation of Jesus Christ. For our light to shine as a child of God and as a Christian, my coming to church and involving in groups should help me to help the groups to grow and not to shatter the groups. Some of us have been involved in certain groups to mash up the groups. And when we mash up the groups, we are looking for another group we think is a better group. And when we go there, what do? We end up gathering as a gang. A lot of groups, a lot of pious organizations are not pious organizations. They are a gang of people who gather to plan what to do, whether to support or to scatter. When we talk about light, that is why I'm bringing this truth. The purpose of light is for you to hear the truth. The truth is not for you to begin to feel, oh, is somebody saying about me or somebody telling somebody about me. So one of the things I want us to remind ourselves, my friends in Christ, is that the essence of your connection with God is not all about looking at what people do or thinking about what people say, but it's about my convinced that I'm a child of God and what is the light of God in me so that I can understand. Sisters and brothers, it is important. Let us not deceive ourselves. From the altar to the congregation, we have a responsibility to become light. A lot of our churches are not growing today because they are being built on the foundation of parish council, parish priests, executives, and all that. And because of that, many of us are not volunteering to do what we are supposed to do. And if it is not our friends that are involved in what we are doing, we are not ready to support because those people are not our friends. We have come to a point where we now politicize the church. We politicize the parishes. We politicize the diocese. We've come to the point where we don't like the truth. And even those, whether from the diocese or from whatever, we only favor those who we think are closer to us. And anybody who does not support what we want to support, we mash them up. For how long will you continue? You remember, one good thing about this world is that all of us, we are visitors. We are strangers. And whether we like it or not, whatever you have, whatever you occupy, your beauty, your handsomeness, your property cannot save you. At the end of the day, you are going to leave everything. We all came into various families. And when we are going, even the family, whatever, you are going to leave everything. And that is why it is important, my dear sisters and brothers, to remind us of the consciousness of what has to make us to connect to God and allow the grace of God to lead us. And now, how do we practicalize this? The first reading from the prophet Isaiah gives us a perfection of that. And I want to use the word sow, S-O-W. When you say sow, it means to plant. So when you plant, you are expecting result that this plant is going to grow. So let's go by the definition of the term sow. I look at sow, the first S there stands for strangers. And that is why I said, if you must become a light and become a salt, there are things, basic things you have to do. You have to look out for the stranger. So many of us, sometimes we become self-centered and selfish. We think all about ourselves. We are so much interested in us and those around us that we don't care about those that is outside our circle. What do you notice? Many of the time, have you noticed that it is those around you that are going to kill you? Most of the times, it is those that you never value that are going to save you. And why do I say this? Do not joke with the people that are around you. that carpenter, that gardener, that cook, that driver, that co-worker that is a cleaner, that person that is a nobody. You may be the manager, but remember, the cleaner, the security can also be the one to give you an advice that can save you from a problem. Try to be nice to people, because you cannot tell when the light of your niceness can take somebody that is a nobody to save you that think you are somebody. Let us let go of our pride. Let us let go of the things that makes us feel too pompous. A lot of us, we are carrying a lot of burdens here. Some of us cannot move because we are carrying people in our heart. And that is why there is so much heart attack these days. There is so much partial stroke. There is so much problems in health. Most of the problems of health, I want to give you the spiritual dimension of health. Most of the problems we are having in health is not basically about the system. It's more or less psychosomatic about the burdens we are carrying. A lot of us, check your heart now. You discover that you may be carrying more than 200 people that you are angry with. What is the reason? You don't know. You just see somebody's face. You hate the person. You don't like the person. Check yourself. And I say this is a time we need to check ourselves. It is a time we need to go back to the memory lane and find out, why am I not growing? Why is my business not working? Why are things not working in my life? Why am I not a happy person? I have everything in life, but I'm not happy. Many of us are not happy because we are not happy with other people. And that's why I say what goes around does what? Comes around. The best prayer is a prayer that you pray for the well-being of others. Because when you are praying that others should not be well, there is no way you can be well. A lot of us, we are stagnated, not because we have committed sin or we have done anything evil, but because we are not happy when we see other people happy. How do you expect your family to work when you are busy spoiling other families and mashing up other people? This is important to change. It is a time we need to remind ourselves of the basic things we need to do. So when we talk about light and salt, we are not here to be talking about Bible. We are talking about how we can become a light to a darkness community, a light to a sister or brother that is hurting. I have noticed something in life. Things happen to people. Everybody start making news. Oh, the man bad, this woman do that, I find this one that. Be careful when you condemn people. You know why? It could have been you. Sometimes when things go wrong in people's life, the first question you should be asking, what happened? How did it get to this point? Were there people who were there for this person? A lot of people out of depression and frustration ended up badly. But when they were going through that problem, you and I were seeing them and crossing them and saying it's not my business. And as soon as it goes wrong, that business becomes our business. We even talk more than the person who they are talking about. So one of the things I want you to understand, my dear sisters, brothers, nobody has it all. Nobody at all has it all. We are all dealing with something. And the best way we can understand and overcome whatever we are dealing with is to know that in all of us, there is light and there is salt. Don't let nothing take away your light, and don't let nothing take away your salt. And that is what they told us in the Bible. When a salt loses its taste, what does it become of? It becomes of no use. So it is poured and to be mashed upon. And that is why it tells us in the soul, take care of the strangers, because you cannot tell who may save you tomorrow. How do we treat those who are not our friends? How do we treat visitors? How do we treat people that we don't know about? Like I said, everybody is a pilgrim here. And we are all visitors at some point in our lives, whether we like it or not. So it is important. He said, take care of the strangers. And the next one is the O. He said, take care of the orphans. Take care of those who have nobody. The orphans here is not just all about those who have lost parents or anything. It can also be those who are helpless in a certain situation. Do not take advantage of them, but find a way to do things around to help. And the last one, take care of the widows, the W. That's why I talked about sow. So when you sow, you gain in the future. Take care of the widows, those who are helpless and marginalized, those who are suppressed and abused, and those who have lost hope of justice. And these are the expectations of us to become light. It means that when we become light, we wipe away tears and darkness in the lives of people. When we become light, we take away something. There is a burden. Can people see you and they are happy? Or they see you, they are sad? Because when you want to hear the real thing, you hear from the people whose life you have touched. Friends, what will you be remembered for? You know, most of us, we are very interested. Birthday, birthday, birthday. How many of us have ever thought about death day? For every birthday, there is what? A death day. Because when you remember birthday and forget death day, that is why the carelessness of the birthday carries you, and you forget that each birthday is to bring you back to think about your life and ask yourself, what progress have I made in life, and what are the things I'm yet to achieve before I leave this planet? We are so conscious of the things that we celebrate around us that we forget the presence of God. It is a time for us to be conscious. The purpose of our independence is to let us understand about the power God has given to us to become free. But are we celebrating this freedom with responsibility? It's important we have to understand that the purpose of this freedom is about responsibility and to see what we have achieved as a nation. Then we thank God. As individual, what have we also achieved? And also as a Christian, a child of God, what is my connection with God? Am I growing or am I going down? So these are the questions we have to ask. The celebrations are important, but we have to go beyond the celebrations to ask some fundamental questions about our spiritual growth and revival. That is why it is a point to remind us that we need to strengthen our light. We need to revitalize our salt for those who are losing touch of the sense of God. And now St. Paul says it all in our second reading. Paul was addressing the church in Corinth. Paul did his work in Corinthians to the point that when he was beginning his work, he was afraid at the beginning of his conversion how God was using him. And Paul had to tell them that, look, whatever I am preaching and everything I am doing is not based on human wisdom. It's not based on human philosophy. So you cannot use human mindset, thinking, and so many things to be able to say for God. A lot of us, we are thinking a lot. Well, most of the times, we process a lot. And that is the problem that humanity is facing. We process so many things. Everything has meaning. And because of that, we have failed to give opportunity for God to do his work. Most of the times, we are busy asking the question, why? Why? And at the end, we don't get any progress. We don't get any answer. It is time for us to let go and to let God. And at this point, we don't need to base our connection with God with human knowledge or human philosophy, but we have to base it on the foundation of God. If we surrender to Jesus automatically, things will not just only improve, we shall continue to be enhanced and testify to the goodness of God. Today, I pray for healing as a nation, as a family, as a people. I pray for healing for those of us who have been going through challenges. I pray for restoration for those who have been down, going through pains and hurts. I pray for our individual and spiritual lives. I pray that this Mass, as a Mass of thanksgiving and liberation, will give us the direction on where we are heading for. I pray that God will help us to overcome the storms and the tensions that have kept us down. And for those of us who are worried about the rate of the inflation, I still pray for spiritual revival and economic revival, that God will continue to provide for us. Because that he will provide for us at all times. I pray that our provision will never go lack in our lives through Christ our Lord. Just open at the back of your bulletin, and I want us to look at those fundamental questions to ponder on. And I want us together to conclude this message by reading aloud those important messages. The first one, can we go together? When I see darkness in the world, do I try to do what? Bring light. And it's important. These are the questions that will guide us, at least for this week. The second one, can we read together? How have I been a light recently? So check your life. How have you been a light recently? And the last one, can we read together? Where does my light need to shine this week? As we go out this week, I need you to look in that office, look in that family, look in that career, look among your colleagues. Where do you need that light to shine? May this light begin from us and reach out to others through Christ our Lord.